You got to talk to me. Jim's on a personal thing this morning, so it's going to be lonely. Brandon, somebody say something. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Brett?
I am good. I'm excited to go over what we're going over today. There's some really good information coming. Um, all right, well, let's jump in. So let me get my screen up here. All right. So, one of the questions I'm trying to answer here is a normal real estate bell curve. The year usually starts off a little slow in January. We pick up momentum till March, and then we usually stay pretty hot until June, July, and then it kind of tapers off second half of the year. But some years it takes until March before we're really cooking. And other years it happens faster. So one of the questions I'm trying to discover is, are we starting fast or are we having a build up momentum to March? I think you're going to see this year is starting really fast. And let's just inspect what I'm saying. So this last 7 days, there were in Rockwall County, there were 220 active status changes. If you look back, I mean, we had 285 in September, but 220 is a lot for the second week of January. So there's a quick start, at least in inventory and listings coming on the market. We look at how many went under contract in the last 7 days, active option, 23 went active option in the last 7 days. Now I look back, that's a pretty healthy number compared to what we were seeing in November and December. There were a couple weeks, 26, 25, but there were quite a few weeks less than 23. And so that alone, just if I didn't talk about anything else, the year has started off really fast. And that's healthy. That's good. That's optimistic that we're going to have a really fast start to 2026. Now, currently 33 pending. That's a building number. But there were 36 properties that closed out in Rockwall County in the last 7 days. Now, you got to understand real estate, those were contracts written in December. So, is that good or bad? Honestly, that's probably really healthy for the second week of December in Rockwall County, right? And then if I just zoom out a little bit here, come on, work with me today, computer. There we go. All right. So, eight pending in the last 7 days, but there were 62 at the end of the year. I'm sorry, eight expired, and only four and no withdrawn. So we're normal week of expired listings, but there was that big number at the end of the year, right? If I look down into Dallas County, 1,400 active status changes. Now go back, December was low, which we expected. But November, Dallas County had 1,200, 1,400, 1,500. We're already back at pace of what we were seeing third quarter last year. These are big numbers, 1,400 active status changes, 51 coming soons, 34 contingent, but 208 option contracts. So you look back, we were in the Dallas County was in the 270 range, give or take, and 208 second week of January says that momentum is building really, really fast this year. There's 257 pending, which is building up, and almost 300 closed out in the last 7 days. Ironically, it was only 316 at the end of the year. So big number for closings in Dallas County. If I run down to Collin County, 1,241 active status changes. Same comment. We're back at pace of listings coming on the market. And I suspect in the weeks to come, this number is going to get pretty big. We had 131 go under contract. We're not back at pace yet, but building quickly. and 229 are in the pending category right now. We're not back at where we were, but we're building fast. And then 196 closed out in the last 7 days. Not as drastic as Dallas County, because Collin County had a big end of year with 392, but still 196 the second week of January is a really, really strong number. Then I run out to the lake. 100 new active status changes last 7 days. They're almost back at pace, but there's 12 that went under contract, which has been kind of their number. When they go over 20, it's really big. But we've got 10 pending currently and 11 sold in the last 7 days. Basically, overarching what I'm seeing in the numbers, and I want your comments, is, and we're coming out the gate with active listings. That inventory is coming fast at the market this year. And we're really seeing a lot of positive growth, positive momentum of properties going under contract, and it's building. And we expect it to continue to keep building as we get in between now and March. But at the same time, the pending inventory is growing, and I love the sold transactions in the middle of January, because everybody motivates to try to close before the end of the year. So that typically causes us to have a little bit of a lull in January, but we're really starting to see more activity than probably what we anticipated in the closing category in January. What do y'all think? What do you hear me say? What's going on in your head? Talk to me.
I think it's a mixture of things. People taking it off the market during the holidays and putting it back on, but also with just the game plan of 2026 and starting early as people are getting off the fence and willing to make that move, have a game plan.
Got it. I love it, Brandon. Somebody else, what are you thinking?
Hear me?
I can hear you.
It's definitely picked up. I had an open house. I didn't host it, but an open house over the weekend. There's $775,000 house. There were 7 families that came through.
Wow.
All the prior open houses, there have been like 2 to 3 at most.
Yeah.
And then my listings have had a lot of showings over the weekend. I really feel like, I don't know if it's the Trump proposal. I don't know if it's, people have been waiting so long and rates were much better on Friday, if that's what it is, but it's definitely, in my opinion, what I've seen is picked up a lot. I mean, I feel like the last week has been faster than most of the weeks, honestly, in 25.
Yeah, that's confirming to what I'm saying, right? Like, I believe the year is starting much faster than probably previous years. And you're feeling it, right? Like,
Yes.
when we look at things, it's leading indicators like showings, open house attendees, things like that are coming fast, right?
Yes.
And I love that. Thank you for sharing. Well,
Sure.
you're right. You made mention of the Trump proposal. There's a couple things we should talk about in terms of, I guess you can call it politics, but here's there were 2 things that the government did last week. One is Trump came out and said he's putting pressure, and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have agreed to put to the tune of $200 billion into the bond market. And what that does is it puts strength into the treasury world, the yields, and that translates to mortgage rates. So did they do it? No. They just made a statement that they're going to do it, and our mortgage rates came down, right? And is this a good thing or a bad thing? I think money going into treasury is always a good thing in terms of strength of economy and strength of the financial market. The other thing about this is you can see here on this Housing Wire article, it says mortgage rates drop below 6% following this mortgage banking announcement, right? So if you were living under a rock, rates actually dropped below 6% at the end of last week for a hot minute. And then they're back up this morning at like 6.1. And I've been making comments on these industry update calls with Jim about how we believe mortgage rates are going to be stubborn in 2026 and kind of hang out between 6% and 6.25%. And yet that doesn't mean there's not going to be a moment in time where a property, or I'm sorry, a buyer might get a rate under 6%, but I don't think that's going to be normal. Now, I joke with Jim every week. I've been on this call. Jim's been on this call. We make our crystal ball predictions. And 3 months from now, we're sitting here with our foot in our mouth, which every economist has that experience. But I just don't believe rates are going to be most of the year below 6%. I think most of the year they're going to be above 6%. And there's going to be opportunity where there's moments where people are going to be able to lock in some rates that are what most people will believe to be a steal, right? Like a 5% something in a rate, but it's not going to be normal, right? So mortgage rates stopped below 6% following his announcement. Um, it also just goes to show how powerful a political statement can be in terms of what happens in the mortgage market. Nothing actually happened. It was just a comment that it was going to happen and rates came down. And they're back up just a little bit right now. The other thing that happened last week that you need to be aware of is the December job market data came in, and it said that there were 50,000 jobs added in the December time period in the U.S. economy. And what I want you to understand about this is it's not that if there's added jobs, rates come down, and if the job market goes down, that rates go up. It's the fact that you got to understand that the Federal Reserve and the pricing of the economics of our industry are influenced by the job market. So, for instance, just like they're influenced by the inflation numbers, it's one of those factors that the government looks at to determine if the economy is getting better or worse or stable. It's just one of those factors. So if the job market grew by 50,000 jobs in December, which is what the report says, that should tell you that the employers of America feel optimistic or feel positive around where the economy's at and where we're going because they're adding jobs. So we are on an upward trajectory economically. And I also think that translates to consumer confidence, right? So you guys are on here saying more people are showing up to your open houses. You're getting a lot more showings on your listings. That is a indicator that consumer confidence is starting 2026 on an upward trajectory. All that to say, hopefully somebody got a quick mortgage lock under 6% last week. And I think your lender partners are sitting around hoping to be able to get back into the refi world. Because if you remember, there was a phrase we taught everybody to say, which was marry the house and date the rate. And that was a phrase we were coining when rates were like at 7%, going, there's going to be a moment in time when you're going to be able to refi that 7% interest rate back into a more affordable position. Well, there's probably some homeowners you sold houses to that are sitting with a high 6% interest rate, or maybe even some that are sitting with a 7% interest rate. And when they get that opportunity to refi at a 5.75 or a 6% interest rate, your promise of marry the house, date the rate has finally come true. Does that make sense? So it certainly would be a good phone call to your past clients that bought when the rates were at 7 and took a chance and took that opportunity because you helped guide them that real estate's always a great purchase and all that to say. What do you think about that when I say what all this job data, mortgage rates? What are your clients saying to you? The people walking into the open houses, the people looking at property right now, where's their mind locked in on? What are they saying? Y'all gonna leave me hanging, aren't you?
It was price. It was all about the price of the home and making sure it was priced accordingly to the neighborhood and, is it worth what we're asking. Not so much that
Perfect.
weren't a huge topic over the weekend, but it was the area and the price of the home. Where do you think the prices are going to go for this year? Things like that.
Yeah. Great. How did you answer it, Brandon?
Um, my opinion, 2026 is we 3-4% growth. I think we'll be somewhere between 1 to possibly flat.
Good. I agree with that statement. I don't think we're going to see a lot of price growth in 2026. However, over the lifespan of them owning that property, they will be very happy with the price appreciation, right? And the typical answer to that is, look, most people right now, the average number of years somebody's staying in a house is 8. So even if prices are flat for 2026, by the time you go to sell this house, you will have experienced price appreciation and be very proud of your investment. Perfect. All right. Well, let me move on. The other big conversation that came out of the media last week was Trump went out and said, I want to put a ban on large institutional investors in buying real estate. Now, whether or not it comes to be or not, it was a statement made, and it certainly created waves in social media. And I certainly think you probably heard about it. However, if we get down into this conversation much deeper, there's an article on Housing Wire you'll get a copy of that talks about it. But the truth is, the large institutional investors probably don't own that biggest percentage of real estate in one specific geographic area. And here's why this is such a big deal. If you realize a builder develops a neighborhood, not that they're price fixing, but they do control the price in that area. And they can inflate those prices as they develop out a neighborhood and continue to push on the prices as they go bigger and bigger and bigger into that development. So the fear is that if in a certain geographic area, which Dallas Fort Worth is an area that large institutional investors do buy a lot of real estate, that they could push on prices and make it unaffordable. Now, are they totally up for debate? Now, I do believe there's certain pockets of the Metroplex that are more favorable for large institutional investors to buy real estate. And I would agree that those pockets of areas of where they bought real estate, they have pushed on rental rates and driven the rental values up. Do I think that they've actually pushed the price of the real estate up from a price appreciation standpoint? I'm neutral on that. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. But this second article on the Dallas Business Journal is talking about the same thing, but it's got a little more data and it's saying, look, investors purchased 33% of single family homes in second quarter of 2025. And that's the last data they have. Now, that doesn't say large institutional investors purchased 33%. It's saying there were 33% of the homes were purchased by investors. So there's a chunk of that that is people like you and I buying rental property. And what percentage of it was actually large institutional investors is probably going to depend on the geographic area and a little more specific data from that. Um, but that's up from 27% of single family homes bought in first quarter and up from 26% that were bought in 2024. So certainly in the year 2025, there was more investor purchases. Um, but you got to understand, most of the investor buying real estate was relatively small operations. People like you and I building wealth in real estate, uh, where 87% of the single family homes that are owned by investors only have one to five properties. They have a couple rental properties, right? So we're only talking about 13% of investment real estate is owned by any investor that owns more than five properties. So yes, that's a chunk, 13%, but it's not enough to probably move the needle, in my opinion. I think some people would argue with me, and I respect their opinion, but I don't know that uh, this comment that was made on banning large institutional investors is really going to show up in our day to day. All that to say, the motivation behind it is affordability. Everything the current administration is doing is trying to figure out ways to make real estate more affordable for the average person to buy. And I don't disagree with that. And I actually think that's a healthy thing because we in real estate are the people that drive the American dream of owning real estate. So any policy that is designed to help people buy and sell real estate, I align with that just because that's what our profession is, not from a political standpoint, but we advocate for homeownership in real estate, right? And I think you probably saw this on social media. What are your thoughts? That's a lot. I'm overwhelmed. I'm completely overwhelmed with commentary.
Can he even do that?
Uh, totally up for debate.
Yeah, there's not a
Yeah,
lot of
I
clarity
don't know.
there, but um,
They could put tax burden on them to keep them out of the market. They could do a lot of different things. Could he just ban it? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. Go ahead, Brandon. What were you saying?
I was just saying there's not a lot of clarity on it. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions, and there's going to be more to come. But I don't. I agree with you. There's not going to be. It's not going to affect us on our day-to-day stuff.
Not really.
I
And
mean,
you're going to get asked about it, though.
oh yeah,
Your consumers will already ask you about it. So you got to decide what you're going to say about it.
yeah.
My easy script was, yeah, I saw that. I don't know that it actually will come to fruition, one. And two, if it does, I'm an advocate for people building wealth in real estate. And if this helps you build wealth in real estate, I'm all for it. If not, it's probably just media clickbait at the moment. And we're on day to day moving forward, right? A couple other things I wanted to share with you before we run out of time. One is CoStar came out and said they're going to slash spending on homes.com through 2030. And here's my commentary on this. If you're not aware, CoStar, which most people believe CoStar to be the commercial MLS, which it is, but they are a very large, well funded entity. And CoStar years ago bought apartments.com and spent an enormous amount of advertising on apartments.com and had smashing success with driving potential renters to apartments.com and they got a really great business model for a return on apartments.com. So they chose to follow that model with homes.com and bought homes.com. And if you've watched any TV advertising in the last couple of years, there's been a whole lot more advertising in the media space around homes.com. I think our industry believed that homes.com was going to become an aggregator like realtor.com or zillow.com, where there were actual leads that we were going to be able to, homes.com was going to provide. We were going to be able to buy those leads. That actually is not their business model. Their business model is premium placement on your listings so that any leads that are generated from your listings come to you. And they don't sell the leads, they sell premium placement on your listings. And I've had agents have good success with this. I have heard agents say it was a waste of money, up for debate, but it is a premium listing marketing package. And what I'm reading into this article is they're cutting spending. So I'm not sure they're getting the same success or same return that they expected to get like they did on apartments.com off of homes.com. Is anybody on the call paying and using homes.com and have any feedback on kind of success you're getting from it? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Well, it's something to pay attention to.
Did
Okay, Patty, tell me what your success or not success from it was.
none. No, we
None.
did it for quite a while, especially I think it was a couple of years ago that they spoke at Reunion, right?
Nope.
On the big stage with Gary, and it sounded great. But what we found is, I mean, I had people reaching out looking for a job off of that site. We had, you know, there were very few real buyers and or sellers on that site. At least that's what we experienced. Of
Yeah.
course, they're not vetted. It's up to us to vet them. And in doing so, they were not real people.
Yeah. I've heard, I'm being honest, I've heard total mixed reviews on this. I've heard, Patty, just like you said, that people tried it a few years ago and didn't have very good success. I have heard recently some agents saying they're getting some good leads out of it. Um, but if you're not a big listing agent, it's probably not your business model because they price it based off of listings and the success comes from premium placement on your listings. So anyway, I'll leave it there, but it's certainly something to take note. If they're cutting spending, we might not see homes.com Super Bowl ads this year. And maybe that's a sign that it's not as viable as we thought it was. Anyway, I'll leave that there. Next article at Dallas Business Journal. Texas reclaims the #1 spot on U-Haul Growth Index, led by DFW. So U-Haul is one of the good data sources for people moving around the country. And they track where people are moving from and where they're moving to. And it shows that U-Haul is saying that Texas is now back on the #1 spot of where people are renting U-Hauls from and moving to. Now, I could argue U-Haul customers are a lot of your first-time home buyers, and certainly there's a lot of apartments included in that. But it just goes to show Dallas-Fort Worth is a great relocation hub, and it's also a place that is growing by leaps and bounds, and we're really blessed to be in business in Dallas-Fort Worth, for sure. And then the last article I wanted to share with you is this one. there's an article on Inman that's talking about how to create launch events that earn media attention, social media buzz, and buyer urgency. And what this is saying is, instead of having a new listing launch that is a media blitz or a features presentation, they're making it talk about how traditional marketing tells buyers what a property offers, why experiential marketing lets them feel it. So you realize if you host an open house and people walk through the house, it's an experiential opportunity to feel the house, right? Or touch or play with the technology in the house or whatever it is. So should you consider, uh, listing launch parties in the future where they experience the listings, maybe where I know Patty, you had a big listing and it was an experiential launch to that listing, but this article might be something you download out of Circle and take a look at and go, should my strategy for my listings in 2026 be more experiential in how I launch them to the marketplace? It's just a conversation. It's not for everybody because there's certainly a more of a cost when you do an experiential launch than a traditional marketing launch. But I think there's a lot of power in when you bring a new listing to the market, especially luxury listings, when there's an experiential opportunity of bringing a listing to the market versus just putting it on the market. Does that make sense? Now, I want to show you one other thing real fast before we run out of time. So every week we post in Circle social media scripts and real scripts. And we also put a email template together for you every single week. So one of my dreams and goals is to hand you your social media playbook every single week based off the content we talk about. And maybe you could call it your weekly playbook. Well, we put it already in Circle, and I took 5 minutes before this call to literally just create a social media reel based on the script we gave you. And I want to play it for you real quick because I want you to know it's not hard, guys. You just have to read the script and go with it. And here's the script from this week. Mortgage rates just dipped into the high fives, and most buyers didn't even notice. Today, the average 30-year fixed around 6.06%, but recent bond and jobs data briefly pushed rates lower. This is how rate cycles actually work. Short windows open before the headlines feel calm. Smart buyers aren't waiting for a magic number. They're locking in payments they can afford and using credits, buy downs, and negotiation power while inventory is still reasonable. DM buy, and I'll send you a simple 3-step to buy smart in today's market. I mean, literally, that's the script we sent you. And I just sat here and recorded it. It took me 5 minutes, and I have social media content for the week that's fresh and relevant. And I just hope you learn that social media is certainly a way of how business is being done today. And we're putting the content together. All you got to do is read the script and record and post, guys. And we're giving you 3 every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You decide. But I would love for you to take on this challenge in 2026. It's simple. You just have to hit record, guys. Make sense? Any questions on anything we covered today? All right. Have a good week.
Thanks, Brett.
Bye, guys.